Okay.
Geographical region of land that drains to a common channel or outlet. Each watershed has its own unique characteristics and needs. The project we are presenting tonight is in the Halls Bayou watershed, located in northeastern Harris County. Harris County and our surrounding area is a flood-prone for a number of reasons, but predominantly, first, we experience extreme rainfall events, including tropical storms and hurricanes. Second, our area is largely made up of flat, slow-draining land. And third, and we see large concentrations of clay soils that do not soak up excess rainfall quickly. While the Flood Control District plays a critical role in flood risk reduction, we are one of several entities involved in these efforts in our region. When rain falls on your roof, it flows through several jurisdictions. These include streets and drains that could be managed by different entities depending on your location, including the Harris County Engineering Department, an admissible utility district, or a city such as the City of Houston. The rain then flows into a larger channel, creek, or bayou that is owned and maintained by the Flood Control District. This slide illustrates the various jurisdictions, which sometimes we even share with other entities. Inside neighborhoods, as shown on the left of the illustration, storm sewers and roadside ditches collect stormwater runoff and start the process of moving it away from homes and streets. Storm sewers and roadside ditches are the responsibility of the underlying municipality. The larger bayous and channels that take the collected stormwater and move it through our drainage system to Galveston Bay are the responsibility of the Flood Control District. This is shown on the right side of the illustration. In the middle is a stormwater detention basin, sometimes constructed by the Flood Control District. When storm sewers on the left are increased, this creates an increase in runoff. Since it is our policy to avoid any adverse impacts from our projects, detention basins help to safely take in and temporarily store excess stormwater during heavy rain events. Often, we partner with Harris County precincts, utility districts, and others to add recreational amenities such as trails to these basins and along our channels. On August 25th, 2018, Harris County voters approved $2.5 billion in bonds for flood risk reduction projects. This vote followed a series of 23 meetings with community members across Harris County, one per watershed, which resulted in a list of what is now 181 bond projects. The actual timing of each individual project depends on a variety of factors, including environmental permitting, right-of-way acquisition, and utility relocation, and in some cases, requirements of a particular grant. Project lists and projected schedules are updated regularly on our website at www.hcfcd.org. As bond projects move forward, we are making significant progress toward resilience in Harris County. We shared an update with Harris County Commissioners Court in October of 2023 and highlighted a few notable statistics. Since the inception of the bond program, we have completed or closed 29 bond IDs, secured $1.7 billion in partnership funding to stretch the bond funds even further through our community, and hosted more than 195 community engagement meetings where we received more than 9,000 comments from attendees. Your input is critical to our efforts, and we want to ensure our conversations continue. We will continue these updates moving forward to share progress on the program. While the bond was for $2.5 billion, the full cost of every project in the bond table is almost $5 billion. So we made it clear from the outset that we would need funding partners to fully construct the projects in the bond program. As I mentioned, we have had significant success so far, having secured more than $1.7 billion in partnered funds for projects across Harris County. This graphic illustrates the many sources of those partnerships, including federal, state, and local funding that Flood Control District is working to secure for Harris County. Each agency has its own definition of eligible projects and its own requirements for local match funding, so the Flood Control District works diligently to match projects to the right partnership opportunities. We will now move into the part of the program that is specifically about Halls Bayou watershed and the tributaries P118-23-00 and P118-23-02 conveyance improvements and related stormwater detention project. As a reminder, we are looking for your input as we discuss the project in more detail. Please feel free to drop any questions or comments in the comment box or to comment via phone by pushing the star key. Halls Bayou spans 45 square miles in north central Harris County from the intersection of Antoine Drive and Fallbrook Drive downstream through Halls Bayou Greenway to Brock Park. While it is its own watershed, Halls Bayou is a tributary of Greens Bayou and ultimately empties into that channel. Flooding is a persistent hazard throughout the watershed for residents, businesses, and property owners. Some of you may remember Tropical Storm Allison in 2001, which flooded more than 13,000 homes and is still the storm of record for the Halls Bayou watershed. In 2017, Hurricane Harvey flooded an estimated 11,830 homes. In 2018, Harris County voters passed the 2018 bond program in recognition of the need to invest in flood risk reduction projects in Harris County, and especially in highly developed watersheds such as Halls Bayou. The Flood Control District watershed-wide approach to projects in Halls Bayou is called the Halls Bayou Bond Implementation Program. Our goal is to holistically assess flood risk in the watershed to implement flood risk reduction projects strategically and efficiently in a highly developed area. Through careful study, the Flood Control District has identified that the most effective strategies for flood risk reduction in Halls includes the construction of stormwater detention basins and channel conveyance improvements on the Halls Bayou tributaries and also on portions of the main stem of Halls Bayou. What's that? It says I'm connecting. Okay. My apologies for the break in communication temporarily. We'll continue with the presentation. At this time, the Flood Control District is aggressively pursuing partnership funding. Currently, 8 projects and halls are envisioned to receive full funds through grants from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. Through the Community Development Block Grant, Mitigation and Community Development Block Grant, disaster recovery programs. You may hear these programs referred to as CDBG MIT and CDBG DR. Additionally, Representative Armando Wally recently secured $18 million from the Texas Water Development Board for the Hall North Stormwater Detention Basin. These are just a few of our recent funding wins that reflect our commitment to executing flood risk reduction project in Halls Bayou. Each of these projects and halls is developed by a team of engineers and flood risk experts who weigh the pros and cons of a flood risk reduction project. Community input is essential to the Halls Bayou Bond Implementation Program. And we thank you for being here tonight to continue sharing how the program impacts our community. As we continue to make progress on completing the 14 bond IDs and halls, we want to keep these lines of communication open with our community. So far, 4 projects in the bond program have been completed. These projects are Channel P118-25-00 drainage improvements, the Little York Stormwater Detention Basin, the Hopper Stormwater Detention Basin, and the Stormwater Detention Basin P518-11-00. There are currently plans underway to expand the P518-11-00 basin into what's referred to as the ISOM Stormwater Detention Basin and further increase the capacity to absorb excess stormwater as part of the bond ID C-41. An additional project, tributary P118-14-00 drainage improvements under bond ID C-35 is currently under construction. Phase 1 of construction has already been completed. Throughout the presentation, we'll be using terms like 100-year, 10-year, etc. A 1% annual chance event, also known as a 100-year event, is a rainfall event that has a 1% chance of occurring in any given year. That does not mean that if you have a 1% chance event today, you are safe for another 100 years. It is simply a measure of the expected frequency based on historical data that we have. By the same token, a 10% chance or 10-year event is a rainfall event that has a 10% chance of occurring in any given year. And a 0.2% annual chance or 500-year event has a 0.2% chance of occurring in any given year. It is also important to note that the precipitation depths for each of the specified frequencies are based on statistical data, and they are not related to each other. For instance, a 100-year storm does not have 10 times the rainfall of a 10-year storm. Now we will get into more specifics of the project we are discussing tonight. The proposed project is bounded by Hardy Toll Road to the east, Airline Drive to the west, Carby Road to the south, and Halls Bayou to the north. The project is also located near the Melrose Park subdivision. The objective of this project is to improve the system carrying capacity of tributary P118-23-00 to withstand a 100-year event, and to improve the capacity of tributary P118-23-02 to withstand a 500-year event. Please note that these are pre-Atlas 14 numbers. It is also important to keep in mind that the full benefits of these projects will not be fully seen until Halls Bayou backwater are resolved. When Halls Bayou floods, the backwater from Halls Bayou may enter into these channels, reducing the effectiveness of the channel conveyance improvements. The Halls Bayou backwater issue is being mitigated through a number of other projects proposed along the main stem of Halls Bayou. Despite the problems caused by Halls Bayou backwater, this project is still very important to long-term flood risk reduction in this area. Finally, the goal of this project's preliminary engineering stage is to provide a feasibility analysis and preliminary design of the recommended alternative. A preliminary engineering report, or PER, will be transmitted to Harris County Commissioners Court once public comments from tonight's meeting are incorporated. The project area has experienced significant flooding in the past. For example, the area received significant flooding during Hurricane Harvey in 2017 and in Tropical Storm Allison in 2001. In 2020, the feasibility study was completed for this project. Work on the preliminary engineering report began that same year. The alternatives analysis, which is part of the PER, recommended Alternative 8 for this project, which, as you will see, is a combination of stormwater detention basin and channel conveyance improvements. In 2021, and then again in 2022, the preliminary engineering scope expanded to include additional areas of evaluation for detention basins. I'll now share an overview of the proposed recommendations of the alternative. First, the PR proposes channel conveyance improvements be made to the P118-23-02 channel. Second, the PR proposes adding several detention basins along the other channel, P118-23-00. Basin 1 is dry bottom and will hold approximately 80.2 acre-feet of stormwater. Basin 2 is also dry bottom and will hold approximately 22.9 acre-feet of stormwater. As seen on the map, basins 3 and 4 are two connected wet bottom detention basins. Because the basins will be hydraulically connected, they will operate as one unit. When finished, basin 3 will hold about 114.5 acre-feet of stormwater. And then finally, the PR proposes making channel improvements on the P118-23-00 from the confluence with the P118-23-02 tributary to the upstream end of the Gulf Bank Road Bridge. This map shows the existing conditions of the project area. As you can see in the map on the slide, the entire project is located within the 100-year FEMA regulatory floodplain or within the 500-year regulatory floodplain. Currently, the channels studied by the PER are grass line. This includes channels P118-23-00, -01, -02, and -03. I'll now discuss the phasing plan outlined in the PER. In phase 1, the flood control district will construct basins 1 and 2, which will mitigate the impacts from the future P118-23-00 and P118-23-02 channel conveyance improvements. The channel conveyance improvements will increase the conveyance, so constructing the stormwater detention basins will ensure that we are not moving the flood risk elsewhere. Phase 1 will also construct the mentioned channel conveyance improvements on channels P118-23-00 and P118-23-02. As part of this phase, the channel flow line will be lowered, which will facilitate the City of Houston's Melrose Park subdivision drainage project. Phase 2 will construct stormwater detention basins 3 and 4 at the same time the City of Houston begins construction on their Melrose Park subdivision drainage project. This slide shows the project's estimated benefits for flood risk reduction. As you can see on the chart, this project is estimated to remove the 100-year regulatory floodplain from 158 structures and to remove the 500-year regulatory floodplain from 52 structures. Additionally, the 2-year floodplain will be removed from 1.7 miles of roadway, and the 10-year floodplain will be removed from 2.3 miles of roadway. Overall, the 2-year floodplain will be removed from 14.6 acres, the 10-year from 91.3 acres, and the 100-year floodplain from 38.2 acres. You can see additional data on the estimated project benefits in this chart. I'll now discuss the project outlook and the next steps. As mentioned earlier, this project will be closely coordinated with the City of Houston's Melrose Park Subdivision Section 2 Drainage and Paving Improvements Project. Once completed, this project will drain into the P118-23-02 channel. The West Harris County Water Authority, or WHCRWA, is also constructing a 96-inch diameter water line in the project area. We have already coordinated with the WHCRWA to make sure that the two projects have no direct conflicts, but coordination will continue as we progress with the project. The estimated total cost of this project through construction is approximately $52.5 million. The Flood Control District is working to secure funding that will be used to construct the full project. The Flood Control District could receive up to $49.7 million from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development through their CDBG MIT program that is being administered by the Texas General Land Office through the Community Development Block Grant Mitigation Program, or CDBG MIT. This is part of more than $500 million application that will fully fund projects across the county, including 6 in Halls Bayou. An additional $2.8 million of the cost of this project will come from the 2018 bond program. This illustration shows the next steps and sequencing for the project. We are continuing to explore additional options during the preliminary engineering stage, after which the PER will incorporate public comments, then transmit the PER to the Harris County Commissioners Court. Afterwards, we will finalize and submit the CDBG MIT applications, which will secure the funding for the construction of the project. We will have another community engagement meeting during the design stage to share the construction-ready plans, including timeline and potential disruptions before construction begins. I'll now turn the program back over to Robert to kick off our question and answer period. Thank you.
Thanks, Lars. Before we move into the Q&A, I want to share a quick reminder that we're looking for your input. We'd love to hear from you on this and other projects moving forward across Harris County. Your input is critical as we continue to develop project plans for this and other flood risk reduction efforts. All comments and questions received this evening will be considered as we develop plans for this effort, but the conversation doesn't end here. To learn more about this project, ask questions, and sign up for our mailing list, please visit hcfcd.org/C26. As a reminder, there are 3 ways to submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. Submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. Submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/C26. Or submit a comment via phone at 855-925-2801, utilizing meeting code 7057. If you are joining us via phone tonight, please press star to leave a message. Additionally, I want to reiterate that any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District following the close of the comment period. Information from this meeting and a recording of the live stream will be available on the Flood Control District's website and YouTube channel. Joining Lars for our Q&A session tonight are Gary Besmick and Dr. Shin He with the project team. Now it's time to take some of your questions. Our first question is for Shin. Shin, what is the Halls Bayou Bond Program?
Sure. Good evening. Thanks for the question. We could go to the slides 14 from the presentation. The Halls Bayou Bonds Implementation Program is a watershed-wide approach to executing flood risk reduction projects in a coordinated, effective, and efficient manner. Currently, the program have ongoing 14 projects. The program started in about 2020. When the program completed, we will potentially reduce flood risk for nearly 2,500 structures in the Halls Bayou watersheds. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Shin. Our next question is for Gary. Gary, what is the Halls long-range vision plan?
Yes, the Hull's long-range vision plan is a holistic approach to flood risk reduction projects across the Halls Bayou watershed. The plan identifies a series of projects to reduce flood risks in Halls Bayou that are broken into 12 separate phases, including channel conveyance improvements for more than 20 miles of the Halls Bayou main channel and its tributaries, and more than 10,000 acre-feet of new stormwater detention storage. The Halls Bayou Bond Implementation Program, which is what we're here talking about, is phase 0 of the overall Halls Bayou Long Range Vision Plan and Phasing Study. This was originally developed in 2013, and the Long Range Vision Plan was updated in 2019 and again in 2021.
All right, thanks, Gary. Our next question is for Lars. Lars, what type of federal funding is available in Halls Bayou?
Good evening again, and thank you for that question. Federally, we have secured funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development through their Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Grant Program, which has funded those 4 completed projects and the one that is ongoing today. We've also secured grants through the Federal Emergency Management.
Lars, here's we're having some communication difficulties. For now, let's move on to the next question. The next question is for Shin.
Okay.
Shin, Rob is asking, how long will this project take to complete?
Sure. Thanks, Rob, for the question. Currently, for this project, we don't have estimated construction start date yet, but typically it will take a year when we start the construction. However, according to the CDBG MEDS schedule, we are planning to spend the 50% allocated funds by June 2025, and then 100 of the completion projects by March 2027.
Thank you, Shin.
Thank you.
And Lars, if we could go back to you, I believe audio is back up on your end. Back to the question that was originally asked, what type of federal funding is available in Halls Bayou?
Sure. So in addition to the CDBG DR grant funding that we received for the completed projects and ongoing project and construction, and the FEMA LPDM grant funds through the Congressional Director Spending from Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, we've also secured additional funding through state grants, thanks to Representative Armando Wally. And then, as previously discussed, we're in the process of finalizing applications in Halls Bayou for 2 CDBG DR grant projects and 6 CDBG MIT grant projects.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lars. And the next question is also for you. Veronica is asking, when will this project start?
Well, the project is ongoing through PER. After we complete this evening's meeting and incorporate the comments that we receive into the PER, we'll convey it to Harris County Commissioners Court for approval, and then we'll officially move into the design stage. We currently are working with the engineer of record to scope the design, so that way, as soon as it's approved, we can immediately begin performing the final design. That typically will take about a year to a year and a half. while environmental permitting and any needed right-of-way acquisition occurs before we can move into the construction phase.
All right, thanks, Lars. Our next question is for Gary. Gary, Rob is also asking if ditches will be made deeper with this project.
Yes, that's a great question. If we could move to one of the slides that generally shows the project alignment, that would probably help. But for the question of will this be deepened, right now, the alternatives that we're looking at that consider channel conveyance improvements are primarily focused on the P118-23-02 channel. And so as we've been working through the preliminary engineering report, we've identified that the ditch that exists out there needs to be deepened. And mainly it needs to be deepened to help facilitate the city of Houston's storm sewer and neighborhood improvement project that we referenced in the presentation. So as we're looking at current alternatives, we are considering deepening that channel so that then the city can do their improvements that will take water out of the streets when it rains and put it into the improved channel cross-section that we come up with. And then as we carry that down, we will continue that depth that we need to be able to facilitate the cities and then try to tie back into the P118-23-00 channel. So yes, to answer the question, we are considering deepening of the channel to facilitate other improvements. And we will continue looking at that in the PER until we wrap that up. And then at the end of that, we will have a recommended project cross-section that we'll move forward with.
All right, thanks, Gary. Our next question is for Shin. Shin, where is this project located?
Sure, I think we can stay the same slides that previously. It shows the project's location. This is generally, in the North Harris County area. It's bounded by the Hardy Toll roads to the east, Airline Drive to the west, and Carby roads to the south, and by the Halls Bayou to the north. P118-23 is one of the main tributary of Halls Bayou.
All right, thank you very much, Shin. Our next question is for Gary. Gary, what is the project's purpose?
Yes, the purpose of the project that we're here talking about is to improve system capacity or the channel capacity for the channels that are out there for tributaries P118-23-00 and P118-23-02. The goal that we're trying to achieve is to improve P118-23-00 to a 100-year system capacity channel and to improve tributary P118-23-02 to a 500-year capacity channel. Now, the 100-year on P118-23-00 and the 500-year I'm talking about are all pre-Atlas 14 levels. And that's just referencing the amount of rainfall that we're trying to get the channels to handle. It is also important to understand that the full benefit, as we talked about in the presentation, for these channel improvements will only be realized when the issue with the Halls Bayou backwater is resolved, which is going to be handled as part of our bigger vision plan in the future. And so we're focusing really on these projects, and that's what the goals are.
All right, thanks, Gary. Our next question is for Lars. Lars, what was the goal of the PER?
Thank you for that question. So the goal of the PER was to provide a feasibility analysis and a preliminary design of the recommended alternative, typically to about approximately 30%. For this project, we also had to take into account alternatives that would mitigate the increased flows in both tributaries due to the city of Houston's Melrose Place drainage improvement project. So their project, if you look at this map on the P118-23-02 tributary, are both to the east and west of the tributary. And so we had to partner with them to account for the increased flows of their improvements to reduce the flooding within the Melrose Park subdivision, and then be able to safely convey those and then temporarily store them into the detention basins that have been proposed to ensure that there's no adverse impacts downstream.
Thanks, Lars. And one more question for you, Lars. Veronica is asking for clarification. Will water flow north or south to the airline/Mount Houston area?
Well, if you could go back to that slide that you were just on, the drainage in the P118-23-00 and O tributaries depicted here generally flow from the south to the north towards the main stem of Halls Bayou, where it intersects just upstream of the Hardy Toll Road. And then the main stem of Halls Bayou here generally flows from the northwest to the southeast.
All right. Thank you, Lars. Thank you very much, Lars. Just for everyone else who's joined us now, I just want to share a quick reminder that there are 3 ways to submit a comment if you wish about this project during tonight's session. You can submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/C26. Or you can submit a comment via phone at 855-925-2801, utilizing meeting code 7057. And obviously, if you are joining us via phone tonight, please press star to leave a message. Also, I want to reiterate that any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District following the close of the comment period. All right. Our next question is for Shin. Shin, have you secured funds at the county or state level?
Sure, that's a good question. At the state level, we have secured grants funding through the Texas Water Development Board, TWDB, through the Flood Infrastructure Funds and the Texas Division of Emergency Management. And at the county level, the 2018 bond program allocated approximately $24.8 million to the Halls Bayou watersheds, including an additional $21.5 million from the Harris County Flood Resilience Trust. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Shin. Our next question is for Lars. Lars, where did the additional funding wins this year come from?
Okay, great. Thank you again for that question. So one of the biggest wins for this year was a $18 million earmark from House Bill 1 from the Texas legislature, thanks to the efforts of Congresswoman Almanda Wally. Those funding will effectively be passed through the Texas Water Development Board to the Harris County Flood Control District to be able to perform the necessary engineering and construction for the Hall North Stormwater Detention Basin, which is just downstream of this area. It's just downstream of Hardy Toll Road on the north bank of Halls Bayou. And we also received word that $1.4 million in federal funds was appropriated in March through FEMA for a legislative pre-disaster mitigation grant. Thanks again to community project funding from Congresswoman Jackson Lee. We're in the process of finalizing the grant application for those funds before we'll officially know if we'll receive those funds later this calendar year.
All right. Thank you, Lars. Our next question is for Gary. Gary, what are the CDBG, MIT, and DR programs?
Yes, both of these programs began in 2022 when the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is kind of shorthand called HUD, allocated funding through the Community Development Block Grant or CDBG program to the state of Texas. So when you see the word CDBG MIT or CDBG DR, the CDBG portion of it is the Community Development Block Grant program. And so the Texas General Land Office, also known as the GLO, was then designated to administer the CDBG funds on behalf of the state of Texas. So the money came from the federal government to the state. The GLO was designated to distribute that money and make sure applications and such are approved by them. And then the Harris County Flood Control District is a direct recipient of the CDBG funds through both the mitigation, which is what MIT is short for, or DR, which is for disaster recovery. So basically, these are programs from the federal government. The money went to the state. We submitted applications from the Harris County Flood Control District. And once those applications were approved, we are then the ones that will use that money to produce projects, to construct projects that reduce flooding in the area per the applications that we submitted.
All right, thanks, Gary. Our next question is for Shin. Shin, how much will this project reduce flooding in the surrounding area?
Sure, if we can go back to the existing condition slides. So this is the map we used the modeling to show how the floodplain looks like today. Currently, this area is subject to frequent flooding, obviously, and the goal of this project is to reduce the risk of flooding. And some of the benefits will include removal of the floodplains from 91.3 acres and 56 structures and 2.3 miles of roadway flooding in the 10-year flood events. And for the 100-year flood events, the floodplain will be also removed from 38.2 acres and 158 structures. Just be noted, these goal conditions, what we call the proposed condition, will not be fully achieved until the Halls Bayou backwater issues is resolved, which is when my colleagues Gary mentioned, we have a long-term and vision plans along the Halls Bayou improvements. Thank you.
Our next question is for Gary. Gary, how has this project progressed so far?
If you could move to slide 17, please. The feasibility study for this project was completed in 2020. At that point, the PER stage began. And in 2021 and again in 2022, the scope of the PER was expanded to include the evaluation of additional areas for a detention basin and to reduce the right-of-way impacts on this project on the surrounding community. So we're basically moving through what we call our project life cycle, which begins with feasibility, which is complete. And we're currently in the PER stage, as we've talked about, and we're trying to wrap up the alternatives so that we can continue to move the project forward.
All right, thank you, Gary. Our next question is for Lars. Lars, what is the recommended alternative for this project and why was it chosen?
Thank you for that question. So the feasibility study evaluated 8 different alternatives. The recommended alternative was alternative 8. That alternative included 3 components. First, the improvements to the P118-23-02 tributary. Second, the addition of 4 additional detention basins along the P118-23-00 tributary, and then finally improving the P118-23-00 tributary from the confluence of P118-23-02 to the upstream end of the Gulf Bank Road Bridge. And the primary reason why alternative 8 was selected is because it offers the greatest benefits in terms of the flood risk reduction at the most cost-effective manner.
All right, thank you, Lars. And one more question for you, Lars. Amanda is asking, will the drainage/ditches within the Melrose subdivision be improved?
So if you could go to slide 17 again. So the Harris County Flood Control District will be, I'm sorry, the one with the map, I misspoke. But the P118-23-0002 tributary will be improved as the backbone within the Melrose Park subdivision. The City of Houston's project will improve the conveyance and the laterals from on the east and west side of the 02 tributary to convey those waters to the flood control ditches.
All right, thank you, Lars. Our next question is for Shin. Shin, what is the total amount of funding secured through CDBG?
Sure. Thanks again with the question. Countywide, I think a CDBG MEDS program has more than $500 million dollars allocated across 18 projects. And the DR program has more than $300 million dollars across 14 projects. The Halls by You ourselves is envisions to receive 179.1 million or over a third of these funds for the projects in the watersheds. For this, particularly P118-23 projects, the total cost is about, through the construction, is approximates $52.5 million. The flood control will receive up to 49.7 million from the CDBG MEDS program. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Shen. Our next question is for Lars. Lars, how many projects will be funded using CDBG funds?
Thank you for that question. So for the Harris County Flood Control District, for the CDBG MIP program, across the county, there are 18 projects that are will be allocated CDBG MIP funds, and there are 13 projects that will be allocated CDBG DR grant funds.
All right, thank you, Lars. Our next question is for Gary. Gary, Veronica is asking, how can we follow the process of funding when they are approved and how they are used for this project?
Yes, I'll attempt. I may ask for some help from Lars or Shen on this question as far as how can we follow the process of funding. I'm not 100% sure if they're asking in this question, you know, how the funding is being assigned or just if they can track how much has been spent on the project. But basically right now, the numbers and the funding numbers that we've provided are estimates based on engineering work we've done on how much projects are going to cost. And then we also, once we have a better idea of what a project will be and what it will cost, then we've gone through the process of trying to identify partnership funding. So everything we've talked about here with CDBG, MIT, CDBG, DR, and the general funding is that as we identify these projects, we come up with how much we need, and then we submit those projects for applications. So as we work through projects on our website, we will be able to update periodically where we're at on a particular project. But then also on our website, we will have general updates to say, you know, throughout the bond program and all the projects going, this is how much has been spent. This is how many projects we have remaining that we're still trying to get to. And so I think that's in general, you know, how things are being tracked. So individually for a specific project and the one we're talking here, we have a working budget, we have project milestones, and after each one, we will be able to report, you know, this is how much we've spent and this is how much money we need. And then assuming things continue on the same direction, these projects would then be applied towards the CDBG MIT funding, DR if it's a DR project, and we would use that funding to continue through the next phase and ultimately through construction. So like I said, along the way, we'll be reporting data that says, you know, percent completes and where we're at. And so if that answers the question, I believe that would be, you know, how they can follow the process of funding.
All right, thank you, Gary. Our next question is for Lars. Lars, what is phase 1 and 2, and why does this project have phases?
So thank you for your question. So the project has phases to take into account a variety of factors, such as impacts of construction of the community and funding availability. But in this case, phase 1 will construct the stormwater detention basins 1 and 2 and make the channel conveyance improvements on both P118-23-00 and 02. So that way the conveyance improvements will be mitigated by the detention volume in detention basins 1 and 2, as well as facilitating the drainage improvements of the City of Houston's Melrose Park project. And so we're phasing that project first So that way our schedule will align better with the City of Houston's project. And then we'll be able to construct detention basins 3 and 4 on this graphic, which, as previously discussed, will actually operate as one detention basin as a wet bottom basin. So that's the reason for the phasing here, is we're trying to complete this project in the most expeditiously way possible, and to ensure that our schedule aligns as with the city's schedule to the greatest extent possible as well.
All right, thanks, Lars. Our next question is for Shen. Shen, how will the City of Houston and the Flood Control District work together on this project?
Sure, thanks to the question. I will follow up. I think like Lars previously mentioned, we are coordinating with the City of Houston very closely regarding these projects. That's one of the main reasons we split the construction phases. We want to ensure the Melrose Park subdivision Section 2 drainage and paving improvement projects can be constructed in time. For many of our projects, the flood control district has collaborated with City of Houston to work together on reducing flood risk in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Shen. Our next question is for Gary. Gary, how will this project impact the pipeline being constructed by the West Harris County Water Authority?
Yes, we touched on this earlier in the presentation, but the Flood Control District is aware of the plans for construction of a 96-inch diameter water line pipe in the project area. And so it's very important, since we knew about this coming, that we coordinate. So we've been coordinating throughout the life cycle of this project. And currently there are no direct conflicts between this project and that pipeline, primarily because we knew about it and we were able to make sure what we're doing and what they're doing are designed to be compatible if there were ever any possibilities. So our coordination with the West Harris County Water Authority will continue throughout, the life cycle of this project, to ensure that if anything changes in their design or our design, that if any of those conflicts were to arise, we can make sure we're designed to get around it so that ultimately there would be no conflicts.
All right, thank you, Gary. Our next question is for Shen. Shen, how does the CDBG MIT program work? Oh, Shen, you are muted.
I apologize. Sure, yes. The CDBG MATES program, or we call the CDBG mitigation, is focused on projects to mitigate future disasters and flooding. The program's criteria is similar to the other CDBG DR, with 53% of funds must be spent in a low to moderate income census tract or a census block group with a 51% or higher LMI index. And once that criteria is met, urgent need projects can receive funding even if they do not meet the minimum LMI requirement. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Shen. Our next question is for Lars. Lars, what is the deadline to spend the CDBG MIT funds?
Thank you for that question. So the deadline for when we must expend the CDBG funds, having a misalignment with some of my notes here. I believe that currently it is in March 31st of 2027.
Thank you, Lars. And this next question is also for you. What projects are on the CDBG MIT funding list?
Sorry, was that question for me? If you could repeat it again.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, the question for you, Lars, is what projects on the CDBG MIT funding? What projects are on the CDBG MIT funding list?
All right, great. Yeah, thank you for that question. So specifically within Halls Bayou for the CDBG MIT funding, we have 6. There are 3 projects under bond ID C-41. The C-41 bond ID is referencing any project that is located on the main stem of Halls Bayou. Those projects are the Hardy West Stormwater Detention Basin, which is currently slated to receive $58.9 million. The Hall North Stormwater Detention Basin, which is slated to receive $12.9 million, in addition to that $18 million that we are receiving from the Texas Water Development Board. And then the channel conveyance improvements downstream of Hopper Road, which is slated to receive $3.2 million. The other 3 projects are channel conveyance improvements and stormwater detention basins on tributaries. And those tributaries are the P118-08-00 tributary, which is slated to receive $24.9 million. Channel conveyance improvements in stormwater detention basin on P118-23, which is the project we've been discussing for close to the last hour here tonight. And it's slated to receive $49.7 million. And then the final project are channel conveyance improvements and stormwater detention basin on P118-27-00, which is currently slated to receive $29.5 million.
All right, thank you, Lars. Our next question is for Shin. Shin, what projects were completed in 2023?
Sure. Within Halls watersheds, we have 1 project completed in early 2023. That is drainage improvements along tributary P118-21. This project is next to the stormwater detention basin P518-11, which we previously completed in 2022.
All right, thank you, Shin. This next question is also for you. Shin, how many projects are currently under construction in Halls Bayou?
Sure, yeah. We have another project we just recently kick off construction. It's a phase 2 of a bond ID 35. We started in last month, and the first phase was constructed along the Little York and Hopper Storm Detention Basin. And this is the phase 2. Second phase, we are making drainage improvements along the tributary P118-14-00 channel.
All right, thank you, Shin. And our last question of the evening is for Lars. Lars, what maintenance projects are underway in Halls Bayou?
Okay, thank you for that question. If you could please switch to slide 14. We have 2 major maintenance projects within the Halls Bayou watershed for 2024. The first will begin upstream of Wayside Drive at the downstream portion of the watershed. This maintenance effort could include an erosion repair, outfall replacement, and desilting of the main stem of Halls Bayou. We anticipate this work beginning this summer. And then in addition, a small erosion repair project will begin next to spring along Glogger Street in tributary P118-19-00.
All right, thank you, Lars. And with that, I would like to share one final reminder that the comment period associated with this meeting runs through June 26th, but we're always looking for your input and engagement. We also encourage everyone to get flood insurance as flood season in Harris County runs year-round. Thank you again for joining us this evening and for providing your input on this project. We look forward to continuing to share updates as our work moves forward. Stay safe and have a good evening.